Welcome to another edition of Weekly Digest, a government information agency program that keeps you informed on what the administration has been doing that will create a better environment for citizens. I'm your host, Ursula Rambial. In this week's presentation for the period January 4 to 10, 2014, the capital city is to be divided into quadrants. Government refuses to accept political dawdling, and visitor arrivals record double-digit growth. Georgetown is to be divided into 4 quadrants, a measure aimed towards easing traffic congestion in the city following discussions with stakeholders.
After much discussion with stakeholders, it was proposed that a series of complementary one-way streets be introduced to control the direction and flow of vehicular traffic, thus easing daily congestion. In light of this, the ministry sought and received Cabinet's approval for Georgetown to be divided into 4 quadrants, these being northwest, northeast, southeast, and southwest. The ministry intends to implement this project in phases in order to minimize its impact on the traveling public.
A commencement date of March 2014 has been set for the exercise, which is to be preceded by a public relations campaign aimed at informing citizens of the new traffic system. The Home Affairs Ministry has been employing several initiatives to reduce road congestion as well as carnage on the roadways. These include working along with all stakeholders. In this regard, a meeting was recently convened with the National Road Safety Council, the Guyana Police Force, and the Guyana Minibus Association to discuss ways in which these matters can be addressed.
My ministry has been constantly holding review sessions with senior management of the Guyana Police Force on the strategies that the force has been employing to address crime and traffic. My ministry takes this opportunity to call on all stakeholders to work with the police force to ensure that there is improved security of our citizens. For our part, the Ministry of Home Affairs will, in 2014, strive to provide more resources to the force, and from a policy perspective, represent issues on behalf of the force that will redound to the benefit of our citizens.
To bring down fatal accidents and road accidents in general between 2010 and 2013, the Home Affairs Ministry procured and delivered to the Guyana Police Force 18 breathalyzer machines with printers and 400 mouthpieces, as well as 29 radar guns.
The Guyana Water Incorporated intends to continue efforts to ensure that all Guyanese, as far as possible, have access to potable water supply in accordance with its strategic plan for the years 2012 to 2016.
The medium target over the 5-year period is to provide new services for communities, reduce non-revenue water supply, increase water treatment plants and improve energy efficiency, and sewerage treatment and disposal in communities.
Commencement of drilling of wells in Port Kaituma Region 1 so as to continuously improve the quality of service. Commencement of exploratory drilling at Mabaruma for access to underground water so as to improve the quality of service. Upgrade of water supply system in Matthews Ridge Region 1, Aichuni Region 10, Puruma Region 7, Akawini Region 1, Kumu Region 9, Rockstone Region 10. And the drilling of well and construction of photovoltaic system at Ruperty and Baitoon Region 9.
Georgetown will see the continuation of the ongoing program to rehabilitate 24 sewerage stations and distribute medication with assistance from the Health Ministry to reduce the spread of neglected tropical diseases.
Installation of mains in Tupu, East Barbies, which has resulted in the provision of improved service to nearly 1,000 persons. Installation of mains, which are scheduled to be completed in the first quarter of 2014 in Edinburgh to Gay Park, number 11, to number 19 on Bushlot, to Eversham, Region 6, which will aid in the provision of improved level of service and reliability of service in East Barbies.
Meanwhile, 2013 achievements covered rehabilitation of gravity feed systems, distribution systems and storage tanks, installation of PV systems, construction of trestles, distribution network, and drilling of boreholes.
The government of Guyana has made it clear that it will not sit idly by and allow the political maneuverings of the parliament to stymie the country's growth and development.
Recapping on the year 2013, the government is of the view that the 10th Parliament has again failed to meet up to the expectations of Guyanese citizens, as it did in 2012. Inflexibility and failure to make compromises and reach consensus were the order of the day at almost every sitting. The situation did not change even when it came to the country's financial integrity.
We are fortunate that we have a sound, strong, well-managed and well-regulated financial system. We're fortunate that our banks remain strong throughout the global economic and financial crisis. Now, notwithstanding our efforts to achieve the strength of the system, we find ourselves in a situation where Guyana's international integrity is called into question. Why? Because the opposition has decided to use their one-seat majority to deny our country amendments to the money laundering legislation.
The Parliament's hand in defeating the Amaila Falls hydropower project is perhaps one of the most damaging results of the work of the 10th Parliament thus far. The government remains baffled by the fact that there are hardly any justifiable explanations offered by the political opposition as to why they choose to withhold their support for certain major projects.
You have had these glaring instances of parliamentary positions being taken by members of the opposition that disclose for all to see their lack of commitment to national development, lack of concern for the well-being of people.
Nevertheless, the government has contended with the reality of the new dispensation and is determined to not let it hinder national development.
Over the last 10 years, visitor arrivals have been increasing significantly to destination Guyana. In 2013, Guyana was one of 3 countries in the Caribbean to record a double-digit growth with an 11.7% increase in arrivals. The Guyana Tourism Authority in 2013 recorded an average of 2,630 tourists per month. In August alone, Molson Creek recorded 3,581 arrivals, and in September, 3,602, over 11,600 visiting Lethem Region 9 during the year.
When I arrived for the first time, it was really only to refuel. I found such a lovely oasis, such a pleasant place, and now it's a regular stop for me.
And I know you've been one of the organizers who brought back all the other guys.
Indeed, I liked it so much. The destination is undersold. Sailors, yachtsmen don't know about it, and we're trying to change that.
The increase represents visitors from across the Caribbean region, especially from Suriname, Brazil, and Jamaica. Some of the contributing factors towards this achievement includes familiarization trips, British Birdwatchers Fair in London, and trade shows in New York and Canada.
We have been in the Caribbean since last November and plan on staying here until at least May in the Caribbean. We double hand most of the time. We've sailed approximately 8,000 to 10,000 miles in the past 2 years, and we're pleased to be in Guyana.
The Ministry of Tourism is determined to sell Destination Guyana, and in 2014 it projects a 15% increase in arrivals. Several FAM trips are scheduled to be conducted and will result in more persons visiting Guyana. Stay tuned. There's more of the Weekly Digest after the break.
Amerindian rights to land ownership continues to be a high priority for the PPPC government. The signing of a US $10.7 million agreement with the United Nations Development Program has paved the way for the implementation of the Land Titling and Demarcation Project, which is expected to provide absolute grants and certificates of title to eligible Amerindian communities and villages. There are 97 titled villages, while 77 others have had their lands demarcated. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs will be working to process the first batch of 33 communities for land extension and 70 for demarcation under the 3-year land titling project. In an effort to better their lives, more than 42,000 pensioners are currently enjoying a 25% increase in their pension. This is in addition to the waiver of the Guyana Water Incorporated's bill. And in another attempt to enhance their lives, over 8,500 pensioners are benefiting from $20,000 subsidy yearly towards their electricity bills with the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
Guyana as a tourist destination continues to receive international acclaim. The reputable National Geographic Traveler has named Destination Guyana as one of the must-see places in 2014. The renowned magazine said Guyana is the best-kept secret in South America with stunning natural wonders. This year, increased focus will be placed on enhancing the standards within the industry, focusing on tourism products and services, multi-destination itinerary planning, events management, ecotourism, and sustainable principles and guidelines, as well as a grading scheme which will be developed for the industry.
In an effort to respond more promptly to citizens, the Home Affairs Ministry has launched an online crime reporting system which allows citizens who possess or have access to cell phones, computers, or other devices with internet connections to report criminal activities. Citizens can get instant access to security personnel on BlackBerry Messenger via 280-4E429. Reports of corruption can also be made on www.ipaidthebribe.com. These reports can be made anonymously. Guyana is set to achieve the goal set by the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF of universal birth registration by 2015. The General Register Office has launched an intensive campaign. It has decentralized its services to specifically cater to the needs of residents living in the interior location. Bedside registration is also done in several public hospitals. There are now 200 registration centers operating in 10 regions. Citizens are urged to ensure that all births are registered.
The West Demerara Regional Hospital has been aided in relieving the burden of the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, delivering a high quality of service to citizens. During the course of 2013, government placed a lot of emphasis on improving the hospital's services along with its physical structure.
In terms of the accident and emergency unit, there have been some expansion of both the accident and emergency and the outpatients department. And with the additional staff there, we hope to ensure that, a full A&E unit be commissioned very shortly there, so that, and that again can, take off some of the load from Georgetown Hospital.
A great deal of infrastructural work was done on the building, including expansion, rehabilitation, and maintenance. The ministry has also identified a partner who will be providing incubators for the hospital's neonatal ward.
In the operating room, we have been able to have at least 2 rooms available for surgery, machines and so on. There are some developments in terms of the development of the neonatal intensive care unit, and we already have a donation, a partner working with us on obtaining the incubators that are necessary for that unit.
The hospital has also been facilitated with additional staff and has been serving as a training center for health professionals. A resource center is expected to provide a vast amount of sport-related information and research material before developing into an institute of sport.
This 2-story facility, which is scheduled to be commissioned shortly, will be equipped with a library, computers with internet access, and will provide a vast array of information.
Through CXC, a number of sports would be offered as one of the subjects in CXC. And you'll be able to write SBAs and things in particular subjects. So we want to provide resources for students who would be writing sports as a subject in CXC. We also want to provide that resource to them.
When the coaches want to be accredited, they will be provided with training sessions, and this facility will aid in this respect.
We see this institution that we are starting here as a resource center growing and evolving into an institute of sports, where we'll be able to offer maybe a certificate course, later on a diploma course, and perhaps up to a bachelor's level course.
This will be the first such facility locally, and it will be located in the National Squash Court at Wolford Avenue in Georgetown.
The Guyana Fire Service is well on its way to transforming its operations to take on an addition to its mandate, whereby it will now be offering an ambulance service as well.
In keeping with this new thrust, the institution is scheduled to complete its strategic plan by the end of this month. The Ministry of Home Affairs has already procured 2 ambulances with the aim of resuscitating the service's rescue capabilities.
In 2013, 60 ranks of the Guyana Fire Service benefited from training from a team of experts from the United Kingdom. The aim of the training was to create a batch of core trainers, trainers, to facilitate the transition of the Guyana Fire Service in keeping with its new mandate and rescue service. The training focused mainly on specialized rescue and municipal firefighting. Also, in 2013, the Chief Fire Officer visited the United Kingdom, where he completed a stint with the Gloucester Fire and Rescue Service as part of an initiative to foster partnerships with internationally acclaimed fire and rescue service agencies.
The Guyana Fire Service Training School, which is among the most significant initiatives embarked on by the sector in terms of firefighting, is scheduled to be completed by the end of February. This institution is the first of its kind in Guyana. Insert.
The focus of capital works for the Guyana Fire Service for 2013 was on completion of the training school at Luzignan, the first ever of its kind. 71.3 million of the allocation of 75 million was spent on 2013 to complete this project.
The Guyana Fire Service change of name bill, which was rejected in the Parliament, will be retabled to effect the change to the institution's mandate.
Sensitization sessions on women's rights and on men's role of promoting gender equality will continue in schools and communities.
The Women's Affairs Committees in Regions 5 and 6 have been dealing with complaints pertaining to gender-based violence, while the Men's Affairs Bureau has helped boys and men understand issues relating to their gender, such as anger management, understanding the need of spouses and women, and the issue of gender equality.
Through many programs which we have initiated and attempted to raise public awareness and to heighten and to sensitize our populace about the issue, we have, through the national machinery, embarked on a number of things and initiatives. The national machinery continued to work nationally. We continued our national conversation on domestic violence in 2013.
Sensitization sessions were held by the Men's Affairs Bureau. These include 85 prisoners from the Lusignan prison were sensitized by the Men's Affairs Bureau, 450 from the Georgetown prison, and 35 prison officers from the Timehri prison.
The Bureau hosted a workshop on HIV in keeping with the CEDAW Convention. Now, the CEDAW Convention, as you may all be aware, is the United Nations Convention which deals on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And that convention was adopted in 1979 by the UN General Assembly.
The Women's Affairs Committees will be working voluntarily with the Probation Department, the Child Care and Protection Officers, health and education officials, and other agencies dealing with social issues.
Stay tuned. There's more of the Weekly Digest after the break.
Ghana is set to achieve the goal set by the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF of universal birth registration by 2015. The General Register Office has launched an intensive campaign. It has decentralized its services to specifically cater to the needs of residents living in the interior location. Bedside registration is also done in several public hospitals. There are now 200 registration centers operating in the 10 regions. Citizens are urged to ensure that all births are registered.
In an effort to better their lives, more than 42,000 pensioners are currently enjoying a 25% increase in their pension. This is in addition to the waiver of the Guyana Water Incorporated's bill. And in another attempt to enhance their lives, over 8,500 pensioners are benefiting from $20,000 subsidy yearly towards their electricity bills with the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
In an effort to respond more promptly to citizens, the Home Affairs Ministry has launched an online crime reporting system which allows citizens who possess or have access to cell phones, computers, or other devices with internet connections to report criminal activities. Citizens can get instant access to security personnel on BlackBerry Messenger via 280-4E429. Reports of corruption can also be made on www.ipaidthebribe.com. These reports can be made anonymously.
Amerindian rights to land ownership continues to be a high priority for the PPPC government. The signing of a US $10.7 million agreement with the United Nations Development Program has paved the way for the implementation of the Land Titling and Demarcation Project, which is expected to provide absolute grants and certificates of title to eligible Amerindian communities and villages. There are 97 titled villages, while 77 others have had their lands demarcated. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs will be working to process the first batch of 33 communities for land extension and 70 for demarcation under the 3-year land titling project.
Guyana as a tourist destination continues to receive international acclaim. The reputable National Geographic Traveler has named Destination Guyana as one of the must-see places in 2014. The renowned magazine said Guyana is the best-kept secret in South America with stunning natural wonders. This year, increased focus will be placed on enhancing the standards within the industry, focusing on tourism products and services, multi-destination itinerary planning, events management, ecotourism, and sustainable principles and guidelines, as well as a grading scheme which will be developed for the industry.
During Cabinet's statutory meeting at the Office of the President on January 7, His Excellency Donald Ramotar and ministers of the government discussed several issues of national concern. The media was subsequently briefed on Cabinet's deliberations.
At its Tuesday, January 7 statutory meeting, Cabinet gave its no objection to contracts in the education, health, natural resources, public works, and local government sectors. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon expressed government's deeply rooted concerns about the possible loss of investor confidence given recent actions of the political opposition, which saw the cessation of the Amalia Falls project and the Muri Brazil aerial mapping exercise.
Combined with the concurrent parliamentary opposition to the anti-money laundering amendment bill, and as you know, the consequences that led to C-FATF, November recommendation to blacklist Guyana. That combined with these incidents of loss of projects by investors, the cabinet was convinced that these impediments to the government plans for economic development in Guyana, these were real impediments being created, being sustained by the parliamentary opposition. Investors' confidence in Guyana as a destination for their financing is indeed under attack.
There were several ambassadorial and constitutional appointments that were highlighted. These include non-resident French Ambassador Michael Prompt and Ombudsman Justice Winston Moore. The acting Chancellor and Chief Justice posts are also set to be confirmed by the President.
The President has sought to have these two positions that have for many years been filled by acting appointments, filled substantively by the acting Chancellor, Mr. Carl Singh, and the acting Chief Justice, Mr. Ian Chang. President has made those intentions known during the consultations with the leader of the opposition.
The government will consider a revised strategy to embrace and promote tourism as it continues efforts to further develop this sector.
I anticipate that the modest incentive package that currently exists, now that we see what benefits can accrue from the tourism development in Guyana, that investment package, according to the call that was made at Cabinet, being expeditiously upgraded and specific elements directed at promoting the orderly development of tourism, specific elements directed at removing the bottlenecks and the obstacles that, yes, currently exists to tourism and the development in Guyana.
Dr. Luncheon noted that government's position on the USAID governance project remains the same, and the issue will be discussed between U.S. and local officials to find a resolution.
A foreign government, the United States government, has in essence said to the government of Guyana, you have no respect for what you said and what you directed and what conclusions you came to. We are going ahead with what we want to do. We need to discuss this, the two sides. We need to discuss this. I, for one, and I think most of my colleagues feel that this is not an insurmountable matter, problem to be resolved, but there are principled ways to address this issue. We ain't negotiating on the duress. We're not discussing a project and its implementation, why it is being implemented.
And with those features, we have come to the end of this edition of Weekly Digest. But before we go, here's a recap of the highlights. The capital city is to be divided into quadrants. Government refuses to accept political dawdling, and visitor arrivals record double-digit growth. Please note that Weekly Digest and other government information can be found on our website, www.gina.gov.gy, or you can send us your comments and suggestions at ginagovgy@gmail.com. Join us again next week as we highlight more of government's programs and policies which are enhancing the lives of Guyanese. I'm Ursula Ramdale. Do have a safe week ahead. Goodbye.